the town.
Oh, Chicago has
Yeah,
just the worst winters.
I know, but I'm a glutton for punishment. Ginger, you grew up around here anyway.
I
So,
grew up in
Yeah.
Rockford. I know exactly, and I've been in Chicago a lot of times.
oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll tell you. I had friend requested you around the time that I wrote about Howie Gordon,
Right.
and I probably had forgotten about that. I was just trying to network, and then when I got your that you had accepted my friend request, I remember I had just watched 2 days before, or I just listened to your interview on the Rialto Report, which I thought was fascinating and so good. And I was like, wow, she'd make a great interviewer or interviewee. So I was,
I had so much fun with Ashley in April.
oh my goodness. I think that Ashley's definitely working under a pseudonym, but everyone should be interviewed by a British guy at one point in their career. So anyway, right. So one of the, you'll get a kick out of this, and we're rolling. So I remember when I was in my 20s, I saw an interview with you. I think it was an E special. And you talked about growing up in Rockford and loving the song Mr. Bojangles. And I said, she's cool. I like that. Forget about my my prurient interests in adult film. But
well, I love that you like that. What I would do is every summer for like probably 5 years, I would put on a play, and I would have, basically, it wasn't really a play. I would just pick a song and I would dance to it. I would make up, little choreographed moves to it and lip sync or just sing along with it. And then I had my little 2 girlfriends that lived down the street. They would be my backup behind me, and we would charge a nickel for people to come and see it. So we had this big production every year. That's Rockford. That's the kind of girl I am. That's where I'm from. And the interview that, whatever I said, what did I say?
About about Mr. Bojangles.
Oh, Mr. Bojangles.
Yeah.
Mr. Bojangles was one of the songs that I would dance to. I actually heard it. I asked Siri to play it the other day, and I was trying to remember my little choreographed moves. It was so funny.
Which version, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band or Jerry Jeff Walker?
Jerry Jeff Walker,
who just passed away. So his spirit, wherever it is, he'll be glad that we're thinking of him.
Oh,
right.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Vegas? Tell me what's going on. I certainly have a lot of questions for you.
I moved, I lived in Los Angeles for 35 years. I think, 30 years. Anyway, from 83 till 2015, 22 years. And I moved to Vegas in I'm not even high.
Don't worry, I am.
I wish I was. No, I just had a total brain fart. I moved here in 2015 and sold my big my big house, my fast life. And it was, I loved growing up there. I loved getting into the adult industry there. I loved being in it while I was there. I loved LA. And I met somebody special and wonderful. We just met Nick.
Yes.
It's been 11 and a half years now.
Wow.
And we decided to make the move to Las Vegas.
Is it quiet?
So it's quiet. I live at the base of this big, beautiful mountain. My backyard there's a big slope. It's part of the mountain.
It's very nice.
So I'm in the desert, but I'm like I said, it's a beautiful mountain that I go hiking on, and it's just a nice little, like someone just rode by on their bicycle. It's suburbia.
It's not so bad though. I mean, it's
No, I love it, and I can do what I want living here so much more easily. I paint now. I've been painting for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. Here's my latest piece I just finished.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. I haven't named her yet.
That's very Picasso-esque.
Thank you.
Yeah, seriously. And I like all the little shade tones and I don't know, we could turn this into an art show. Where do you have a good paint store where you go buy from and canvases and stuff?
I order most of my supplies online through Amazon.
Isn't that great? How have you guys been this last year? This
I've
unpredictable and
been
weird
really
year?
lucky. I in so many ways, it's been a sad, sad year. It's heartbreaking how sad it's been for so many people. And I've just been healthy, happy. I'm used to being working from home, and my man works from home as well. So I'm used to being with him 24/7. So I'm in the middle of my work day and I'll run downstairs and we'll be doing something. He'll come down and we'll just talk for an hour in the middle of our work days. But we don't. There's so many people that are fighting.
Oh, I know.
Our country is so divided right now, and especially just everywhere. I don't want to get political or
No, you could get political. I mean, it's not even a political thing. It's almost like, I always say, it's like walking in on your parents fighting. You don't like to see that, or anyone that you love in some kind of fracas, and they're all just, they're eviscerating each other. They're like, it's so mean. And
it's ugly.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's ugly, and hey, where's the love?
Well, it's weird. I'm a little bit younger than you, but we're of the same era, and I don't remember, let's say I was 16 in the mid 80s. I don't remember, even from there, everything pre 9/11. People listened to each other a little more, and the divisions weren't so pronounced. And to me, it's just, don't people remember that we've already fought for certain things and we've already kind of moved on, but apparently not. And so we've got to do it all over again. But it's, at the expense of a lot of us who grew up in a much happier time.
I am so grateful for the time that, I was born in 1962. So, my childhood was I was born and raised in Rockford until I was 19. And then I came to California, and now I lost my train of thought again.
Better times.
Oh,
Yeah.
and so it seemed like every decade I listened to music in the 70s when I got turned on to 70s. And I love 70s rock. I love AC/DC. I love Led Zeppelin. I love The Who. I love Pink Floyd. I love Bob Dylan. I love the Beatles. Like, I love music.
Mm-hmm.
I love music. I even listen to country music.
I love country music. I just interviewed Ashley Campbell, Glenn's daughter, and she was so cool. And
I
just
saw the photos. How was she?
Amazing. You've got to get, I think I sent you the record. It'll blow your mind. It's like a 1960s country record. It's kind of like, I compared it to Bobby Gentry, the one who was singing Ode to Billy Joel. It's got like those really beautiful strings, but the grit of like a good, country singer, and obviously all the requisite heartache and stuff like that. Speaking
I
of,
didn't know she sang.
Oh yeah, she's lovely. I mean, she sounds as beautiful as she looks. But speaking of pot, do they have dispensaries in Nevada?
Oh, there are dispensaries everywhere in Nevada. They're all over the place. I don't live near the Strip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the edge of town, which is 15 minutes away. And there's no traffic. I love it. I'm just having brain farts today.
That's okay.
It happens, and I have no good excuse, like I said.
Don't worry. I'm so stream of
Help
consciousness.
me, guide me.
Yes.
Keep
absolutely.
up. What am I talking about?
That's fine. Well, no, we're talking, I think that you're having some kind of free associative moment. I brought up marijuana and now you can't think of anything.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah,
there are dispensaries everywhere. I swear I'm not high.
Right.
It's wonderful. And then I have a friend that comes to visit me. He lives in Houston and he comes like once a month. And he'll go to the dispensary when he's here after he's had a few drinks, and he'll buy me a goodie bag.
Yeah.
So I'll get, a bunch of pre-rolls and some edibles. One time I got this little spray bottle that was awesome. I love that it's legal. It was legal. I had my medical card in Los Angeles before it was legal there. So I've been a fan of marijuana for quite some time now. I just think that I'd much rather take something natural than take a pill.
Yeah.
If I get in a panic attack or whatever's going on, there's just times that, or it's just the end of the day and I just want to go,
You
I
sleep
love
okay?
that. I love that. Do I sleep okay? I sleep fantastic.
That's good. What about Nick?
Yeah, I lie
Does
down and
Nick
I'm
snore?
usually, I do snore.
What about Nick?
He doesn't snore.
Right.
I do though.
I do too. Someone gave me I got a sleep apnea machine, but it's like sleeping like with Alien, when it was on one of the faces.
Yeah.
It's just brutal. I can't do it. But so one of the things that I liked about the Rialto Report interview is that, and maybe this sort of informs your nice outlook on life. You seem to be always cheery. You seem to always be a glass half full person. And by the way, you look great. I don't think age has really diminished you at all.
I love you.
God bless you. But
You're my new best friend.
Anytime. So, but you did maintain a nice relationship with your folks, maybe as imperfect as it was. I mean, you had a connection with Rockford always.
I always had, well, my dad and my grandmother, my grandfather passed away before I got into the business, but my dad and my grandmother were my two biggest role models. And I love them both dearly. And we had a little rocky time.
Sure.
My grandmother, she was so funny. She knew who I was. She knew what I did. She asked me one time, she said, how do you do it with a girl? And it was so bizarre to have my grandmother asking me, what do you do with another woman?
Right.
And I explained it to her and she thought about it and she was totally cool with it. And she took I remember she went to bingo, and bingo is where I had one of my very first jobs. I was 12 or 13 and all I did was stand out. It was the parking lot of the VFW and I would just point cars where to park because there were no lines. It was just a dirt lot.
Right.
So I basically lined up the cars and Graham took my penthouse to bingo with her. The same place that I worked.
Wow.
Parking cars, and she was so proud.
God bless her. That's awesome.
Yeah, she was great. We hung out as much as we could, at least once a year for years. And then when she got older and needed to go someplace, she came and moved in with me for her last few years. Fabulous woman. My dad was great.
What about your grandfather? When did he pass away?
He passed away in 1982.
So that was early in your career.
No, I didn't get into the adult film industry until 1983.
Mm-hmm.
December 9th, 1983. It sounds so long ago. Doesn't that sound like ancient times?
I was bar mitzvah that year.
So you kind of grew up with me then.
I did, but I'll tell you, you'll get such a kick out of this because, being from, where I'm from, and it wasn't like ubiquitous on line like it is now. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I'm like freaking out. Like I want to block everything that's
oh my God.
on the internet. But I remember, and my friends who will probably watch this, we memorized the trailers, the voiceovers, and I think there was something for one of your films like called Those Young Girls, and it was like this guy saying
I wrote that. I produced that.
Did you write the voiceover?
I wrote everything.
Okay, so the guy was saying like, has Harry come between those young girls? Seems like it. Just like really funny. But their relationship endures to give you one of the most sensual scenes between two women. It still sticks in our head. This is from a stolen VHS tape from one of our father's drawers. And so
That's hysterical.
so maybe I've waited a lifetime to tell you that, but not. We still have quite a few years left. I'll give you major props though for you were right about Ron Jeremy all along.
I didn't lie. There was no
Right.
reason for me to lie. I came out with it so long ago, for the first time in 1986,
Really?
and nobody believed me. And over the years, a couple more times that, it wasn't as though I talked about it all the time, but
Sure.
enough that people should have believed me. It's just, it's fucked up, but he was the hedgehog. He was, I don't know. They actually had a website where you could vote for me or the hedgehog, who you thought was telling the truth. It was just disgusting. And I am so happy that he's in a position to possibly get what he deserves.
Right.
Well,
it seems as though he was milking this really twisted adolescence into like his senior years. And whereas like people that worked with him, whether it's Howie Gordon or John Nuzzo or Leslie, everyone was adults, you included, and those of you who keep in touch with each other, it's almost like he existed on this weird, perverse plane, and he was doing the wrong things, and it's
for a
sad.
long time.
Why do you think they didn't believe you?
They didn't. He was accused. I want to say, I know it was Michigan. I can't remember the city, but I was dancing at a club, and the week before Ron had been there, and one of the dancers had accused him of rape, and the judge dropped the charges. And this was back in, I danced from 89 till 2000, so somewhere in there. I can't tell you when.
Right.
But it happened to a lot of girls that I talked to. When I came out with it, I remember after my shows, after I was naked and the music ended and I'd done my 4 songs, I was totally naked, and I would take the mic and I would do a little
Q&A.
talk about myself a little bit and what was going on. And I can't remember exactly what he used to say, but something about it's a good, my favorite person is so-and-so, and my least favorite is Ron Jeremy. It's a good thing that he can suck his own dick because nobody else wants to.
Right.
And so people would laugh, and it was, just part of my little hi, here I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take Polaroids with people and sign autographs. And I remember this couple came up to me, and the dude's crying, and he's like, I'm wondering, what the hell's going on? And I said, hi. And the woman said to me, why did you say that about Ron? I said, because he's a pig. He raped me.
Oh.
And, if anybody asked, I had no problem telling you exactly what happened. And I guess the couple owned a video store, and they hired Ron to sign autographs at the store. And Ronnie raped this man's wife in their storeroom. And when her husband walked in, he was raping her, and the husband didn't believe that it was rape. He thought that she was voluntarily fucking him.
Right.
And so he had accused her for all of these years of this happening. And I don't know why there's people that don't believe it. There's no reason to make something like that up.
Right.
And let's get back up on something happy.
Well, that's what I want to
back to happy land.
Well, no, I'm glad. Well, that chapter is over. I'm glad you did say something. And so let us talk about something happy. You seem very happy. What are you doing now? Like, what, do you maintain websites? Like, what did you realize recently? Like, I should be doing more stuff on social media.
The last 5 months now, I've been doing a new podcast. I'm back with Christy Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
We have a show called Who Let the Girls Out. It's funny, it's sexy, it's educational, it's kind of gross sometimes. We do a lot of experimenting. It's just two girls that, it's like we're at a slumber party, and we experiment with a lot of different things and entertain and take you on different thrill rides. And
Right.
it's a really fun show. And my relationship with Christy Canyon it's magical. I mean, we've known each other. We figured out it was 36 years now. And we're still best friends. Every time we get together, you can't shut us up. And so our life is a podcast. I go and stay with her every month. My son still lives in Los Angeles, and I stay at Christy's house. And so I see her all the time. So it's up on Patreon. It's patreon.com/
Cool.
Who Let the Girls Out. And you have to type that whole thing in, because as of the first of the year, Patreon changed their rules. And so if you type in Who Let the Girls Out, since I have to have it in the adults only category,
Yes.
I don't come up in the search engine. So you have to use, that's why I take the time and say the whole thing.
That's wild. She's a nice Armenian girl from Los Angeles, isn't she?
She is. She's my bestie. So we've been doing the show for about 5 months, and that's a blast. It's funny, when the pandemic hit, my son had come to visit me. He was on spring break from college, and he was here when the lockdown hit. And so he stayed here for 5.5 months.
Wow.
And during that entire time, I had no chutzpah, no creative energy. My juices weren't flowing. I didn't paint one painting during those for like 6 months. And it's just been the last few months again, I started painting. So that takes up some of my time. I'm on OnlyFans, and you can find me there, onlyfans.com/blameItOnGinger.
That sounds all right.
I'm running my art site, gingerlynnart.com, my website, gingerlynn.com. I've got stuff up on eBay. I'm just a busy girl.
That's amazing. Weren't you in a film once with Mark Hamill?
Oh, and you know what? I forgot the most amazing thing. Last year, I did 4 feature films during the pandemic. I was in the middle of shooting one, and I had to fly back to Sacramento about a week after the lockdown. And they were like, all right, let's sneak this in before, and not get caught. So I flew there, and, we all wore masks except when we were shooting. The entire crew wore it the whole time. So I did a film up there. It's called, I'm getting this weird cult following now. It's called Slasherette Party. And it's awesome. It's a throwback to the 80s. Lots of young, hot girls. It's a slasher movie. There's blood. There's bad guys. It's 80s, and it's fun.
How did you get approached for that?
So, I was approached that was done by A&P Productions, and that's Angie and Paul. And they did a film the year before called Streets of Vengeance. And they wrote a really nice, meaty, I had 2 or 3 scenes in the film, but it was a really nice character. And then they, and I don't remember, to tell you the truth, how I met them. They're big fans. They put me in 2 of their movies. I also did 2 films that right now are looking like they're going to go to Showtime. It's called Lady Killer TV. There are 3 seasons or 3 films. I'm in films 2 and 3. Film 1 should be out in April. And then I did a film with Michael Berryman and Linnea Quigley, who I adore and love, from my Vice Academy days. If you grew up watching it, or if you got out of the porn at all and watched my silly B movies.
I did. I watched the one with Mark Hamill.
That was actually Wing Commander.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Was that Heart of the Tiger?
I'm not
Or
sure. I just remember that you occupied screen time with Mark Hamill,
oh, I did. I was Rachel Coriolis.
right?
I was the weapons director. So whenever you went into battle, you had to come to me for your weapons loadout. And they had me in two different versions of it. It was the most difficult job I've ever done.
Right.
The script was about 300 pages long because each scene we would shoot it with 2 to 3 different endings. So, and we were shooting on green screen, which was my first time in tough. You know, you have to be like let your imagination be like you're a child and really imagine that you're holding whatever it is you're holding.
Right.
Very bizarre, very bizarre. And the scene with Mark Hamill, we had weapons let out. We had a couple of scenes here and there, I think, if I remember right. But you as the player got to choose whether you kissed me, Rachel Coriolis, or the other girl in the game. And that's all I remember was that scene. And my grandma was there. And she was wearing, so we're in between takes, and I'm sitting with the director, and I'm looking, the camera's right there, and I can see the monitor. And monitors where it's just a green screen where we had been shooting. And my grandma from the waist up walks across the screen. She was wearing lime green pants that day. And so all you saw was my grandma's half body floating across. She's just walking across the set.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I had so much fun in that film.
How did you take to motherhood when you became one yourself? And this was, your son's in college, so this is what, 24 years ago.
He's 24.
Wow, I was right. So was that something that okay, you're pregnant, you're gonna have a kid. Did you have anxiety at all? Not just raising a kid, but like, how am I gonna navigate these, very that's
No,
good.
I was so fucking excited to be a mom. I was told I couldn't be, and then I got to be. No, I could not have been happier. And I had to think a lot about how I would address it.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was 13. It was the first day of high school and a new high school. And we were driving in the car, and I said, when you want to laugh, you go see a comedy. I'm an actress. You want to laugh, you go see a comedy. You want to, have your heartstrings pulled, you go to a drama. When I say comedy, a drama. You want to get scared, you watch a horror film. And I make films that are made for adults only. Mm. And he said, Mom, I already know. And he was 13, and I thought I had the coolest explanation. And it was rough on him, because the kids that I was the mom that had all the parties. Whatever age my son was, I would give him a birthday party or usually a Halloween party. And they would last the entire weekend from Friday night till Sunday night. And however old my son was, that's how many of his friends could come over. Uh-huh. And so the rumor had spread, I guess, in his 1st through 8th grade school. Everybody knew already. So the parents, I remember the first party we had, all of the parents came, and I had everything planned out for the whole weekend. Every game, it was so fun, and there were prizes, and it was so theatrical and so fun and so wonderful. And I remember the first time, like, parents were hanging out, and I'm like, cool, and they were checking me out because they, it's right. Ginger Lynn. And I didn't understand that for a while until my son told me when he was 13 that he, it'd been all over his other school. So everybody knew. So it affected him a little
badly,
bit.
Or were they treating him like a hero?
No, he's been in a lot of fights. He's got his good friends that are just cool. They just don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And they've known me since, kindergarten. Like I said, I was a very involved mom.
Mhm.
Was
So
very involved mom.
he's,
So
he's
it
staying
affected
with,
it.
yeah.
No, he got in a lot of fights. He defended me a lot of times.
And he
He went
still
to an
will.
all boys Catholic school, and it was tough. It was tough on him. But
Did,
now he's 24. He's grown up. It's not an issue now. He gets it. He understands it. He accepts it.
Mhm.
And you know, we're very, very close. I love my son.
What is he like? What are his interests? What is he into?
Well, what he's really into is he wants to do theater. He wants to do interactive theater. And problem with that is he's got one semester left of college, and he's going for business and communications. So he's going to graduate, and he got a job during COVID, and he had to wear a suit, and he lasted a week. It's like,
A suit these days?
fucking hate. Yeah. Yeah. So he said, I'm not wearing a suit. I'm not wearing a tie. I'm not dressing up. And by the way, you look very nice.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I got dressed for this show. No, I do it for these episodes. It's my I guess I do it for my mom, just to look nice.
You do look nice. Well, I noticed.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm wearing a Las
I
Vegas
know.
Golden Knights sweatshirt.
That's fantastic.
Supporting my team.
I
Hockey
really
is
love this
back.
painting in back of you. I think I might have to get it. I might have to buy an original Allen and have it as my backdrop.
Lynn Allen. I've got another one.
I'll contract you. Oh, I like that. What do you call it? Like,
It's called Behind Blue Eyes. I can't get her all in the frame, but
it looks like an Indian lady, like a Native American.
I never saw it that way.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know, because I'm looking at the bun.
Yeah. It's just here. I decided to draw.
I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of offers on this one.
That's really fun. I've always my daughter is into painting. Her mother is very artistic, and
Much fun.
Yeah, it is. I even to the point where I'm not with her mom anymore, but I always thought her mom was such a good painter, so it's nicely rubbing off on my 9-year-old. But
that's so cool.
I like it. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because there is, I'm starting to think, that one point where you get into like a generational kind of thing where like, oh, these kids and everything. And I would assume that the guys who are directing you or putting you in these slasher films are on the younger side, and they just have an appreciation for things that are from the 80s. But when you look, yeah, and that's cool. I mean, that gives me hope that people are delving into history. Although when I was in the 80s, as a teenager, I was just like into punk rock and music from the 50s and 60s. So it's like I didn't appreciate our era. And I also thought that
wasn't it the best?
Now
the
I
80s, the 80s.
Yes.
Did you like them at the time?
Well, no, but that's because I was probably a malcontented kid. I mean, I liked it, but I liked the the rock bands who had shorter hair, like the more punk new wave types, and I never liked mullets or anything like that. But it was a great time, and it was a much happier time. What do you think? Like, okay, the women that are getting involved in, if you want to call it adult entertainment or porn or whatever, like. To me, just as an outsider, they don't strike me as the caliber of women that were getting involved when you were. And when I say that, the people that I've spoken to, they were more aware that what you were doing was pretty revolutionary. You had gotten out of that period where you couldn't, you'd get arrested if you were shooting these films.
Exactly. The difference, the 80s was so good for me. I grew up, I got into the adult film business. My first major film, which I'd done 2 loops prior to that
Loops, yeah.
to practice, because I went to my agent and I said, I want this much money per scene. I want script approval. I want cast approval. And I want something else. And my agent laughed his ass off. And I had taken a girl that I'd met in his office out to lunch and asked her, you know, how much she made. It was Raquel, or no, not Raquel Darian. It was way earlier. What was her name?
Was
She was a redhead. No, she had red hair. Anyway, she was a star at the time.
Mhm.
And so I went in asking for what a star asked for. And Jim South was my agent, and he laughed and said, no one's ever going to hire you. You know, you don't start at the top. I said, then I just won't do it, you know, and there was magazine work. I still have my journals from 1983. And
read 'em?
I do.
Wow.
And every day that I worked and how much I got paid and who I worked for. And the 80s was just, it was awesome.
The fact that you could take make a record of that, you were having fun, but you still kept a record in your journal.
Kept a record.
Right.
And part of it, the thrill was that it was illegal. We were a really tight knit group. Everybody knew everybody. I had my favorites. I worked with them all of the time. I worked with the same people most of the time. There was an occasional newbie here and there that I'd take on, but you know, I only did it in the beginning for 2 years and 3 months. So what were you asking about the girls today?
Yeah, that's that I don't know. I don't want to denigrate anyone who's younger.
Well,
There's just so much of it.
There is, and what's missing from it, and I think it's because we were so close knit, is passion. Like, I go to work happy. I'm gonna fuck Eric Edwards today. I'm gonna eat Christy Canyon's pussy today. I'm gonna do anal with Jerry Butler today. It was just, they were people that I liked, I had fun with, and I got paid the amount of money that I asked for in my first film. Shot it in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. I went to the mansion for almost 4 years. I was on the guest list.
Mm.
And so I could free reign to go to the mansion. Took my grandma one day.
I love that your grandma's kind of in the narrative.
I know. You want to hear another grandma story?
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
So, yeah, we're on a roll. So you're getting a different kind of interview tonight.
No, this is what I wanted.
I'm loving this. You know,
Good.
You're not asking the same questions everybody
Yeah,
else
I'm not.
does.
I'll never go there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So what was I doing?
Grandma,
Yeah, a grandma, but what was she involved in?
going to parties, the mansion.
Oh, so I took her to the mansion, and I showed her around. We went out to the zoo, and we walked through the grotto, and we went just like through the dining room, and I showed her around, and the foyer, or the main room. And then I took her upstairs because at this point in time, I had my own toothbrush there. I was sleeping with Hef's girlfriend, Carrie Lee. And so I was there all the time. And so I didn't think twice about bringing my grandma upstairs. And Hef had little inlays in the wall, where you could set a statue or the light above it. And instead of that, he had a bowl of peanuts in one. He had his stationery and a pen in another. And those are the only two that I can remember. And the reason that I can remember both of those is my grandma is walking along beside me, and she grabs the peanuts and pours them in her purse. And I'm like, Graham, what are you doing?
I love it.
And she goes, they put them out for people to take them.
Right.
Peanuts. And we get to the second little cove, and it has personal stationery and a pen, and she puts that in her purse.
Right.
And I'm just going, all right, we need to talk. I hear on the loudspeaker, what was her name? Oh,
What, Hef's girlfriend?
no, Carrie Lee was his
Okay.
girlfriend when I was there. But no, his secretary, the girl that took care of everything.
Oh, I don't know.
Marilyn.
Yeah.
Marilyn. So Marilyn comes on the loudspeaker and says, Ginger, can you bring your grandmother downstairs, please, into the common areas? And I didn't think that it was I shouldn't even have thought of taking my grandma up to Hef's bedroom. You know, it wasn't cool, and they were nice about it, but Graham had a good time.
That's hilarious. Did she also take roles from restaurants when they were in the basket?
Oh, she took everything. I put her in a movie one time. She was in a movie for Playboy, and she wore one of my dresses that wrapped and tied around and had a collar on it. And she played this rich old woman. She wore a hat at a Playboy party. And the film was for Playboy. So there were bunnies all over the place.
Wow.
And I played a French maid. And so I've got, there's footage of me for Playboy, shot for Playboy, with my grandma in the scene.
That's perfect.
For the Playboy movie.
Do you still have it?
No, if anybody does, email me.
Isn't that amazing that, you know, could you imagine if you didn't have the love and support from the most important people in your life as you kind of flung yourself into this, you know, this
I am so
strange
lucky. I'm so lucky. My grandma, my dad, my sister was totally cool as well.
Mhm.
I have two stepbrothers. They were awesome.
Right.
You know, my sister, you know, she was like, we're both tomboys, and she would stand up for me in bars and, you know, like a bodyguard kind of thing. And we're both, but she was like 5'3",
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like 5'2". So, you know, we're relatively small girls. And she was very protective. And my stepbrothers, one of them had one of my posters in his gym locker because it was cool. His stepsister was Ginger Lynn. And I did 9 international posters during my adult film career. It's so fucking cool. 9 posters. And I still have every one of them. I have
That's
one
so
of
cool.
each.
That same stepbrother is the one who's friends with my buddy from Rockford. So like that was my friend's claim to fame, you know. Talented guy. But what do you think that the men, though, with the exception of Ron, were, you know, in those early days, you know, if you think about it, like Paul Thomas and Howie Gordon and all these were 60s guys. They weren't, when I say 1960s, like, you know,
yeah, they weren't in their prime.
Yeah, they had been hippies. They brought something else, and you know, Paul Tobis or Phil Tobis was in Godspell or something like that.
Yeah. And oh my God, I remember working with PT for the first time, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but I was really new from Illinois and didn't grow up in the city by any means. And so the line was something about Stolichnaya vodka. And
Let's hear how you said it.
we did the take like 5 times. And I couldn't say it. I just kept stumbling on the word, and PT got pissed off at me, yelled at me. He's like, just fucking say Stoli.
Stoli, yeah, that's what it's short for.
Yeah, and you know, PT just wasn't up. I fucked him a few times here and there, but he wasn't one of my favorites.
I told him I written him because he grew up right down the street from where I live right now in Glencoe. Nice Jewish guy from, you know, Glencoe, Illinois, which is almost like Calabasas is, you know, in terms of wealth. But I asked him a question because I think that he knew my uncle, and I wanted to ask him something about growing up in Glencoe. And I said, I'm proud to say that I, you know, while watching your films, you know, any of your scenes, I had to change it because you look too much like my dad.
Oh.
Just,
Oh.
okay, so back to the girls. All right, so that's what the initial question was. Are they different? I mean, because obviously you were still coming in contact with them when you were working and making film. Like I think you'd made a comeback or something, so to speak, later on in the 90s and 2000s.
I made a comeback in 1999.
Right.
It was for 3 films, for BCA Films. I ended up doing 4, and it was the end of real films for the most part. A couple companies still make them here and there, but BCA was just huge,
Mhm.
and they paid me a shit ton of money to do 7 comeback films.
Mhm.
And it was a blast. I had my own trailer. We had catering, we had makeup artists, we had grips, we had sound men, we had, sound man and the boom guy. We had
It was a real production.
It was a real productions. We had, grips and they were real scripts, and it was just so wonderful. So for the girls today, you don't have the camaraderie. It's not a family like it used to be.
Mhm.
If you're really, really lucky and you get a really good agent, and there are a couple out there, Mark Spiegler comes to mind. But to be a Spiegler girl is you've got to have that it factor. And Mark is just really good at picking stars. And I don't know who the stars are today, but the girls, they don't make as much money today. I made 50 grand per film my
Isn't that
last
wild?
7 films. Yeah, and now they're doing scenes. Somebody did an interview with me recently. Goes, well, how many scenes have you done? And I go, well, I don't know. I've done 30 or 69 films
Mhm.
plus another 7. So now I've done 76 films. Some I had 1 scene in, some I had 5. Most I had 3. Usually it was 3 scenes. The most I ever did was 9 scenes, and it was for film. What's the name of it? I can't remember the name of the film. Oh, Gentlemen Prefer Ginger. And so I owned I got royalties that were paid for a long ass time.
Really?
Yeah, it was the day. And between what I made or being exclusive, but I was lucky because I had the exception of being exclusive with the allowance of me, or my allowance to still make 35 millimeter films, because video is brand new. And I'm like, you know what? I'll be exclusive for video, but I don't want to give up film.
Right.
And so I didn't. And so when I started doing video, I was paid by the month. I was paid to do the box cover. And then I was paid the days I shot as well to do whatever it was I was doing.
As a contract girl with VCA.
With
Were you
VCA and with VCA for my comeback, but also with Vivid.
Okay. Did you
So the girls today,
let's say it again.
they don't do films. They rarely do films. They do scenes.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of them think it through. It's not the way it used to be. And I love the industry. I love porn. I watch porn.
Mhm.
I would never do porn today. And so I'm not the kind of girl that would encourage someone to do something that I wouldn't do.
Why is that? Is it because are you kind of thinking that they're not going to have the same kind of love and support that you'd had as a newcomer?
It's not even the love and support. It's a fucking job to people. The girls that are paid to do a scene. They walk in, and I have friends that I love and I respect and are good friends that make films and will walk in and they don't talk to their co-stars at all until the scene starts. I was on a set and I was doing a scene right after this really famous blonde girl and a really famous guy.
Mhm.
And he was sitting there playing games on his phone, and she was over there talking on her phone on two different separate sides of the sofa. And I was in makeup, and they called for this couple to come in and fuck. And they just kind of walked up, and they took stills before they shot. Sorry, my lips are very dry.
Oh, don't worry.
They took, and so they basically picked 3 positions. So he had to get hard, take the stills when the makeup was fresh, and whatever those 3 positions are, that's all you got to do on film.
Right.
There was no just like when I worked with a director for, I was I wasn't a brat. I knew what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I always told the director, don't talk to me when I'm fucking. Don't tell me what
You need to get a
where
shirt
move.
that says that.
And I hated it. And so because to me it was like this dance, like this ballet, this, you get so involved, and so it was so real. It was so fun, unlike today where it is a job. And I just had a girl on my podcast that makes films, and she came on and she said, that's exactly what I do. It's a
Mhm.
job. She goes, there's no emotion involved. There's no, it's, whatever I'm told to do, I'm paid to do, I do it. And
So it
it
was
just
more than
didn't
just
sound,
commerce then when you
it
were
didn't
doing.
sound like fun to me.
Right.
And girls do scenes for $200 today.
Right.
And you just go, and there's one guy holding the camera, and you're doing a POV, and you're giving him a blowjob, and then he fucks you, and it's all, and then
Did you feel empty afterwards? Did you
it's,
do? Right.
I've done my fair share of, sport fucking, but I always liked the person,
Right.
and I had to like them. That was why I asked for things like script approval. Or cast approval. I wasn't just being a brat. It was important to me to be turned on by the person and like the person that I was going to have sex with.
Think about
And
what the men had with no Viagra back then. Now it's got to be, rampant.
I can't believe that's good for you at 19, 20 years old
No.
to be taking Viagra. I don't know. I don't think that the verdict is in yet on that one. We'll have to see how these aging porn stars get by,
Right.
or if they just take it for life.
Are
I
you in
don't
touch
know.
with any of your old colleagues other than Christy?
Christy mainly. I'm still in touch with Nina. And that's about it. Oh, I talked to Priya Ray the other day, and never mind, I lied. And Tabitha Stevens, and Jocelyn Stone, and Rebecca Love. Yeah, a lot of the girls, Jocelyn Stone and Jocelyn James, both live here in Vegas.
Mhm.
So we've got our little group of girls that I love and adore that live and have moved out here. We're kind of taking over, and I guess all shooting is shut down in Los Angeles. So there's several companies out here, and so people are just coming out here to shoot because we're not shut down. Are you
So,
shut down
am I shut down? Well,
or lockdown?
yes and no. I mean, I've gotten very used to wearing a mask, but the expression you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm like that with a mask. I cannot, like, I'll go into a store and for some reason I feel like I left my brain back in my car. I just can't seem to function, but it's just a matter of course now I wear my mask. My daughter still has to go to school at home, and I think that they're going to reopen for like a hybrid type of learning, but I don't know.
It's brutal. I can't believe that children are out of school for this long of time. And
I would have
most
loved
schools
it.
are still online. My son stopped. My son said, I'll come when COVID's over and when school's back, because I need a teacher. I need a live person
Right.
talking to me, not, 9 people into Zoom.
Are you going to get that
So-
vaccine?
I don't know. I probably will. But because by the time it becomes available to me, I'm not high risk at all yet. I don't
Right.
have anything wrong with me that, I just-
Do you work out? Do you watch what you eat? Like all that kind of stuff.
I do Pilates, which
Oh, nice.
is, well, I did gymnastics when I was in school.
Mhm.
And then I went on to do Taekwondo, and I did Shoto Shinkai, Taekwondo, and then MMA. I studied for 22 years.
Wow.
I've had 4 knee surgeries. I have donors in both my knees.
Just from kicking someone's ass.
Fighting every time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't do that anymore, but what I do is Pilates, and Pilates kicks my fucking ass. I love Pilates. It just works everything, and
Do you recommend it? I know people who teach Pilates.
I
I have
highly
no
recommend it.
flexibility. I'd love to do something like that.
I highly recommend it. For the first half a dozen times, I talked a lot. During class, I asked a lot of questions. I did a lot of things wrong.
Okay.
And it's hard to get used. It takes you 5 or 6 times to get, and then you just flow into it, and it's great. So I do that. I try to do 5 days a week.
Well, that's great. So will you promise to come back on the show and talk to me? Because I like talking about things that are happening in the present. And I think that some really cool stuff's going to be happening with you in the next year.
To tell you what's coming up, I've got so far this year 4 things happening, and I can't tell you about any of them.
Okay, but
And they're all good, and I'm waiting for something to fall apart, because 4 things in January of 2021, starting to film the end of this month.
right.
And
It's going to happen.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
that's a done deal. And then the next project begins on February 20th. That's a 4-part miniseries. I can tell you that much.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, and then and I can't tell you about the other one.
You should have a tirade like Tom Cruise had about people not wearing masks.
I wear my mask everywhere except at home. When I'm
Right.
at home, I hated it at first. Hated wearing my mask. I couldn't breathe. Got claustrophobic.
Right.
Freaked out. It was just, I couldn't. They were not good, and it's been so long now that it's just part of my face.
Yeah. Well, as long as you could experiment with different designs, and maybe you could actually
Oh,
design a
of course I
mask.
do. Oh, I have like 10 different masks.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm so thrilled that you came and talked to me tonight, and
Thank you so much.
you're my new friend. So
Yes.
yeah, I appreciate it. Hang on,
Thank you very much.
hang on 1 second. I'm gonna stop the interview, but this was great.
Okay.